Doug Ford announced a couple of days ago that new harsh penalties are in store for gatherings of more than 25 people outdoors. There's clearly more than, 150 here right now. You face, as a participant, an $880 fine. The organizer faces a fine of at least $10,000. Do you think the cops are going to show up? And if they do, are you running for the hills?
Well, I'll be laughing because you just financially devastated me, and then you're giving me a $10,000 charge that I don't have. So, I'd love to tell that to the judge. Right. Extract my debt from me? I don't know.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. And folks, before I get to my story, please, if you can, go to journalistdefensefund.com. If you're able to, make a donation. Sometimes we have security that we have to pay. Sometimes it's lawyers' fees, but we do what it takes to bring you the other side of the story, and we need your financial support. Well, I'm here on the northern lawns of Queen's Park, and guess what, folks? This is the first challenge to the new harsh penalties regarding social gatherings. Now, 48 hours ago, it was announced by Premier Ford that indoor gatherings are limited to 10 people and outdoor gatherings are limited to 25. Well, the folks of so-called Yahoo Nation, they're still here, as they've been here every Saturday since late April. Now, it's early on in the event. There is at least 50 or 60 people here so far, so that's more than double the 25 limit. Now, there is a risk, of course, if law enforcement comes in to enforce the law. That means for whoever the organizer is, it's a penalty of at least $10,000, and that can go all the way up to $100,000. Not chump change by any measure. As for all the other people attending the protest, they face fines, those de rigueur $880 Wuhan virus fines that we have been fighting on your behalf at fightthefines.com since May, I believe. In any event, we're going to walk into the crowd and find out what it is that is bringing them out there, and are they fearful of getting the heavy hand of the law to come in and shut down the protest and hand out very serious fines. Also, again, because we are in the city of Toronto, lorded over by Mayor John Tory, I can't help but notice the double standard all through Queen's Park, folks. That hideous blight that has infected other parks in the city, it's come here, even to Queen's Park. So, what I'm talking about are these filthy tent city encampments. In fact, not even 25 meters away from me, there is a couple of tents. There are far more as you walk south in the park. And yet, even though, 11 sections of the Trespass Act are being violated, it's hands off for them. But for people that want to exercise freedom of speech, they face heavy fines and maybe even incarceration. We'll see. So far, I don't see any law enforcement or even Queen's Park security, but we'll see what happens as the day goes on.
They cannot infringe on your charter rights. Where's my fine, Doug Ford? Where's our fines, Doug Ford? They're lying to you.
Well, I'm with Kellyanne Wolf, and wow, what a brave lady she is. She's gone on record as saying she is the organizer of this event. So that means she faces fines starting at $10,000, going all the way to $100,000, maybe even jail time, who knows. Kellyanne, are you worried that as the afternoon progresses, law enforcement is going to come in and give you a 5 or 6 figure fine?
No, I'm not, and I'll tell you why, David. Under Section 2C of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we're protected to protest. That's why Doug Ford, everybody has to start paying attention to the language that politicians use. Okay, he spoke of parties and gatherings like that, and social gatherings. This is not a social gathering, this is a protest, and you are 100% protected under your charter rights, which he cannot infringe on. He does not have the authority to infringe on by the charter. So you can protest, you're free to protest and gather, charter and its freedom of assembly. So,
You know, Kellyanne, Doug Ford had a very rare Saturday press conference just an hour ago, and he was asked the question if the social gatherings include protests, and he said yes. So that's completely contrary to what you're saying. Absolutely. I guess this is something for the courts.
yeah, absolutely. So I encourage Doug Ford, if he wants to find somebody, come and find me. I encourage you to. So, because I will set a precedent across this entire country as to what our laws mean and what they stand for. See, the government, David, the government likes to try and call upon the Emergency Measures Act as their source of authority for infringing upon the rights of Canadians, and that is completely false. On the first page of the Emergency Measures Act, it clearly states that this act is subject to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They do not have the authority. That is a blatant lie. And I suggest to the politicians out there, they become a little bit more familiar with their laws, considering they're supposed to be representing them and the people.
You know, we've been doing this for 22 weeks now. So it seems that, you know, either it's snowstorms or it's BLM or it's Antifa or it's a group or it's a gang, or there's always something that we hear is on the horizon that's meant to, quite frankly, scare tactic people from amassing and getting numbers where they can see that we're here every weekend having gatherings and celebrations of Canadian polite patriots. And no, they've never charged us. They've said that we're Yahoos and all sorts of crazy things, but they've never charged us, they've never incarcerated us, they've never done anything. Now, what they'll do is they'll go and find some, you know, cricket playing team in Brampton of 8 guys, and that's it. Because you see, what they understand, and I know what's going on, is that they don't want the lawsuits. Because they know that as soon as they come to court over this kind of stuff, it's going to get thrown out of court, and they don't want the media on that kind of stuff. So no, we're not worried.
You know, these are good points. Certainly, this is a brand new law that took effect at 12:01 a.m. Friday, so it didn't exist before. So we'll see if the Premier's bite is as bad as his bark. But you raise interesting points. We have seen on the lawns of Queen's Park mass gatherings, particularly racial injustice groups like Black Lives Matter. Typically, unlike your polite gatherings, we have statues vandalized. The Premier lashed out at you people way back in April, calling you a bunch of yahoos, but when it comes to Black Lives Matter, Afro-Indigenous Rising, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
It's unbelievable that we've been able to see this. You see, and the issue is, especially with social media, thank God for social media, because we're able to see the kind of concessions that the government and the police forces have given such organizations as BLM and Antifa. And see, I'm not going to get into who funds these organizations. However, they're always given concessions. And we've seen even Justin Trudeau wear masks and not wear masks. And all of a sudden, if we're protesting or having a gathering, we're supposed to wear masks, but these people don't have to. And it's like, wait a second. We're wondering, when's it okay for one organization to protest, and when is it not okay for another organization to protest?
So masks, that's just a symbol. We know that. There is no science behind any of this.
You people that have adopted the term Yahoo Nation, which was how the Premier described you in late April, certainly you got the scorn of the Premier by him using that slur, yet we've had other protests come to the lawns of Queen's Park. Black Lives Matter, Afro-Indigenous Rising. Sometimes they're violent. Often they vandalize statues, and yet the Premier sees no evil there. What gives?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hypocrisy, right? It's the hypocrisy we've seen all along, where the contradictions between what they say and what they do, even personally. So, or let alone, you know, you can have one thing, but you can't have the other. So, no. As far as that's concerned, you know, they are going to use us. We know that. They're going to use us. They're going to try to blame the second wave on us. And you know what we say? So I'm representing Hugs Over Masks when I say this. We are the second wave. And not the second wave they're talking about, the civil, rights wave.
You face, as a participant, $880 fine. The organizer faces a fine of at least $10,000. Do you think the cops are going to show up? And if they do, are you running for the hills?
Well, I'll be laughing because you just financially devastated me, and then you're giving me a $10,000 charge that I don't have. So, I mean, I'd love to tell that to the judge. Right. Extract my debt from me? I don't know.
Well, folks, Yahoo Nation has marched to Yonge Dundas Square, and as you can see, absolutely a gathering of more than 25, I'd say 6 or 7 times that amount. And yet, no law enforcement, not even the young Dundas Square security guards. They're in their, I guess, barracks or whatever you want to call that structure to the east of me. But still, it doesn't look like there's any appetite by law enforcement to clamp down on this newest regulation. So the question as the marchers head on back to Queen's Park is this the new normal going forward? It's just Premier Ford spouting a whole lot of tough talk without backing it up? Or will the Premier hit a boiling point in the weeks to come and say, that's it, that's the line in the sand, we are going to come down with all the heavy-handedness of the state, which he has been threatening but has not transpired as of yet. We will keep observing these protests, folks, and as soon as Premier Ford does have law enforcement enact a $10,000 or $100,000 fine, believe you me, we'll be amongst the first to report that. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, you know that we here at Rebel News, we never bend the knee, whether it's fighting for freedom of speech in the public square or going after politicians behaving badly, but we need your help. Sometimes it's for security costs, sometimes it's for lawyer fees. So if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com. And if you're able to, make a donation. Thank you so much.